Hello everyone, welcome to Crypto Basics Coach podcast. I'm Marco. I'm here to help people navigate this topic so as to benefit from the opportunity this new technology provides and not get distracted or put off from the nonsense there is out there about crypto. Anything and everything presented and discussed, whether here or in our sessions, is of an educational nature and should never be taken as financial advice. Always do your due diligence and consult professionals before making any final decisions. Hi folks, welcome back. So I'm going to kick off a 7-part series that I've spoken about in my socials, in the short versions, where I've just in summary covered the various topics just lightly. The idea is that here in the podcast I'm going to be covering it in more details. So the one that I'm going to start with today is cold wallets. It's something that you're going to hear about pretty soon in your journey with crypto and what they are, how to use them, what to watch out for. So these devices, effectively, just to keep things simple, they're essentially a glorified USB, okay? And they've got some software on there, and what they do is that they essentially hold your key or your keys and they show what represents the quantity of crypto that you hold on any particular chain. And it's to be understood that your crypto is not on these devices, okay? It's your keys and your representation of what crypto you actually hold on the relevant chains. The crypto always remains on the chain, okay? So you're not taking it off the chain and putting it into your cold wallet. So that's the first distinction that I want to help people understand. These devices are used for security and for creating keys that give you entitlement to the crypto that's on the chain. Okay, but they're glorified USB technology. They can be quite small. They can be quite frustrating to use because of their size. They've got little screens. Some of them have gotten better, and the devices have gotten more like almost like small phones, for example, to make them a little easier to interact with. Okay, and that alone can put some people off to be utilizing these devices. So the thing that you have to remember is that there's a phrase in crypto, not your keys, not your crypto, and that's because most places where you're going to source your crypto, i.e. CEXs, CEX, centralized exchanges, where you would typically transfer your money, you would then purchase your crypto. That crypto that sits on those platforms legally is not directly yours. It's the asset of the company, and they're showing you a representation of what they owe you. And there's been a number of examples where if the company goes under, you're not considered to own that particular asset. So it's a great idea that unless you're doing any trading, consistent trading, selling and buying, that what you'd want to do when you do purchase any crypto is that you store it off to a cold wallet. There are various types. By all means, look into it. There's Ledger, there's Decent. Go to my website. You'll have some affiliate links there, which will touch on the next point I'm going to make, which is making sure that you're buying them from a legitimate source. Okay, but there's probably 3, 4, 5 very common ones that as soon as you start investigating crypto, you'll get familiar with them. Then go and have a look at the particular type that takes your fancy. It could be the color, the size of the screen, and sometimes it could actually come down to which cryptos are you looking to store, because not all cold wallets hold the same cryptos that other wallets do. Okay, so you need to look into which cryptos you're going to hold and whether you've got a compatible cold wallet. So the first thing is once you've looked into all of that and once you've decided that you're going to get one, you have to make sure that you go to a original source, meaning the manufacturer. Okay, and you can do that through affiliate links like the ones on my website, or you can do that by looking it up on the web and going directly to the company themselves. It's not recommended that you purchase through third parties like an Amazon or an eBay, because there's been cases where apparently those have been hacked. They've been sort of reconfigured, and when they come to you, they've already been compromised. Okay, and so people have gone to use them, and then they've come back, weeks, months later to find out that they're empty. And that's because someone had already compromised that wallet. It wasn't unique. And so they took the crypto that the person put on there. Okay, so what you need to do is make sure you get it from the original source so that you know that, and if the packaging has been tampered with or, broken, same common sense as other things you order online, send it back and tell the company, okay, and get a fresh new one. There's just no point in taking the risk. So once you've got this device, what do you do with it? Well, It's usually a two-part process. You've got the hardware device, which is the physical device itself. Sometimes it connects via Wi-Fi to your laptop. Sometimes it connects via Wi-Fi to your phone, or sometimes you actually can connect it by a cable to your laptop. And so the other part of this is that you need to get the appropriate application from, again, the original source so that you can interact with this device. Okay, so you don't just connect it to your laptop and somehow you're able to interact with it. You will need to download the appropriate software or the appropriate interface so that you can then work with this wallet and get the graphic representations, user interface that's going to make it manageable and easy to use. So again, you need to make sure that you get that from the original source. And then as with all technology, what always happens is give it enough months and there'll be a fresh software update. It could be on the device itself or it could be on the software on the laptop. Okay, so again, when you get, usually what will happen is when you power up the application or when you power up the device, it will probably prompt you to say, hey, I've got an old version, there's a newer version that's available to be updated. Okay, and that's a nice way of knowing that it's legitimate because you're being told by the device and the application itself. If, however, you're getting an SMS or an email or some other notification saying to you, hey, look, it's time to update your software, treat that with caution and high skepticism. Okay, make sure that you go back to the original website and just confirm that indeed there is a new patch or a new update. Because again, hackers have used that particular vector to attack people as well by making them think that they're downloading a legitimate version of something when they're actually not. They're downloading a version from a hacker. So make sure that the updates, they do need to be done because they do provide security patches. Sometimes they might increase the type of coins that are being handled and supported by the device. So you do need to do upgrades, but make sure that you're getting it from the original source. And typically, unless you're having to interact with the device, sometimes you can just put the device away and it could be there for a year. Okay, it's really for sort of long-term storage. It's not supposed to be something that you're interacting with every day and so forth, and that in itself increases the chances of something going wrong. So make sure that from the app's perspective and the actual device, you get it from the source. The next thing is be careful of anyone that's providing support. If you're having an issue with the hot wallet, it's not with the cold wallet, and it's not behaving, or you're having an issue with it, and you then contact the help desk, make sure that you are actually talking to the legitimate help desk from the vendor with whatever support that they're looking to provide. And when you set these wallets up, depending on the wallet, sometimes you have a 12-word passphrase, and sometimes you have a 24-word passphrase. Passphrases and your seed keys, these are all different terms describing the same thing. They're essentially your grandiose password to be able to access the device and access your crypto. Okay, so these devices will spit out, when you set up a new wallet, either a 12 or a 24-word pass code. What you need to do is you need to record those 24 words and record them in the correct order. Okay, that's important too, because sometimes they're displayed to you in like a 3x5 or 3x4 table, and so are you counting them, left to right or from top to bottom, etc. So make sure that you duplicate exactly what you've seen, so that irrespective of if when you come back in a year's time, you know what to be able to type back in, or if you're setting up a new wallet because that one has failed and you've had to order a new hardware wallet, then great. Then what you can use is you can use that phrase for resurrecting your wallet. And again, it'll show you the representation of what cryptos you have on the different chains. But what's important is that you make sure that you never, ever, ever give that passphrase of the 12 words or the 24 words to anybody. Okay? Nobody requires that in order to help you fix an issue. At worst case, what you do is you just grab a new cold wallet and you reinitiate it using your passphrase and everything will be resurrected. Okay? So if anyone asks you for those phrases when they're trying to give you support to fix an issue, you probably know that you're speaking to the wrong people. Okay? And you never, ever, ever have to give that up. There is no IT situation, bug fix, whatever the case might be, where that is actually required to be handed over. All right. So if anyone ever asks you for that, or if you find yourself ever starting to type it in because you've been prompted, and it can happen because, in the stress of trying to fix something and in the urgency of trying to fix something, sometimes you forget. So I just want to make that absolutely clear. Never, ever offer your passphrases. Okay. They're golden and they need to be kept by you. And just on that, the way that you record these passphrases and where you store them and whether you have a duplicate, okay, is also ultra important, because what you have to understand is if you lose that passphrase, there's nothing that anyone can do. You'll have lost your crypto. Okay, you cannot resurrect another wallet without that particular passphrase representing exactly what you're entitled to on these chains and what is yours. So make sure that, you might want to have, I would suggest possibly no more than 2 or 3 copies, because obviously if you have 6, 7, 8 copies, there's more chances of them falling into the wrong hands or someone finding them, okay? So it's a catch-22. You don't want to necessarily have one and have all your eggs in one basket, but you probably don't want to have 10. Second thing is, how are you recording them? And a good example I used in the social media was, I said, are you writing in pencil on a piece of paper, and then that piece of paper might be stored in, say, a damp basement where potentially moisture gets to it, and when you go back to have a look at it in 6 months, it's illegible. You can't read it. Okay? Again, you'll have lost your crypto. So consider how you're recording it. It is advised that you never, ever, ever have a digital representation of it. So in other words, don't take a photo of it and save it on your laptop. Don't save it on your devices under Word or under Notes or something like that, because there's examples where devices have been hacked. Hackers have gone and looked around and they've spotted these passphrases, and well, you can imagine where it ended. So do not keep these things digital. Okay, you either write them down, good pen and paper, and then sealed envelope, and then store it wherever you decide to store it, whether it's at home in a safe, whether it's in a basement, whether it's in the wall, whether it's at a deposit box in a bank. You figure it out, but you need to make sure that it's secure, but also that it's enduring, okay, that it's not susceptible to the atmosphere and moisture, and potentially you can't read it. One thing that some people have done, and these available, is there are metallic versions of how to keep your passphrases. So imagine, you grab just a piece of metal and you engrave, okay, your words on it. That's another way of doing it. And in most often cases, that's better than, if it's in a fire, it's better than having it in paper. Okay, so these are the things you have to consider. Think of it as no different as to how you would store gold or store silver. You'd be worried about fire, you'd be worried about theft, security, etc., etc. These are the same thing. These passphrases are the key to your entire wealth in the crypto world. So make sure that you deal with them accordingly and store them accordingly. Okay. The other thing is that no one should really, other than perhaps you, maybe your partner, they shouldn't have a copy. Okay, there's ways of, when you want to leave it as part of your estate and etc., really they just need to know the location. If they need to go there, they don't need a copy themselves. Okay, so just be very diligent about those. And then one of the last things I want to cover with regards to cold wallets is, because they are an electrical IT device, like a USB, like a phone, they've got circuits and chips and things, it'd be a very good idea if you get yourself a Faraday bag. Okay, and you can get them in different sizes. You potentially can even put your hot wallets in there. But at the end of the day, what a Faraday bag does is it protects anything electrical in two main ways. One is that there's no way to interact with that device through the Faraday bag. So it can't be scanned, it can't be prompted, you can't connect to it in Bluetooth, it won't receive any signals while it's in there. So that's number one. Number two is it's also protecting against electric EMP pulses and so forth, interference and etc. So basically it provides a nice inert environment for that cold storage wallet to just remain pristine until the next time that you need to use it. Okay, so an extra level of security is put it in a Faraday bag, and then same as I've just mentioned, that Faraday bag, where do you store the cold device, the cold wallet? Okay, similar to your passwords. It'd be a good idea if you use 2 different locations, one for your cold wallets, one for your passwords, for obvious reasons. But think about where you're going to store the Faraday bag, and obviously to a point it has to be convenient, maybe a safety deposit box isn't appropriate, although if you're only accessing it once a year, maybe it is. Okay, but again, have a think. And of course, the other thing is, if you have a large amount of crypto, you might decide to have multiple cold wallets. Okay, just a risk mitigation strategy. Instead of having everything on the one wallet, who knows what could happen to it, you might want to have 2 or 3. So that's up to you. Obviously, it causes a little bit more administration, but as your wealth starts to increase, as the markets start to appreciate, these things are going to be worth a lot of money. And so you may want to proportion it accordingly, maybe a third, or whatever you want to do. Okay. And there's no need to have the one type. You might decide to have multiple types of cold wallets. So you're not only just protecting versus the manufacturer, if something was to happen, or the particular type, but you've also got multiple to reduce your risk. Okay, so have a think about all of that. If you need more information, at worst, you can always book a free 30-minute session on my website, and I've taken people through how to set these up clearly with the rule of they do not display their passphrases to me or even disclose the quantities, because it's irrelevant to me. Okay, we're just looking to set you up. Whatever your quantities are and your passwords, that's your business. So if you need some extra help, jump on the website, book a session. Next week's episode, we'll be covering off the hot wallets, okay, which are different again, similar but different. In today's, I just wanted to cover off cold wallets. So I hope you found that interesting. I hope I've gone into enough detail to give you an idea of what you're going to encounter, or if you're already using them, perhaps what you aren't doing that you should be doing, and things that you should be considering. Stay well till next week. Your homework is we'll go off and just do a little audit of how you're currently doing it, and is it suffice? Take it easy, folks. Talk to you next week. Cheers. If you found this information helpful and are interested in a more hand-holding approach while navigating this complex industry, please visit cryptobasicscoach.com, that's basics with an S, and book a session. The first 30-minute session is free, and we can get to know each other, talk about what your aims are, what you're looking to do, and how I might be able to possibly help. I've helped people get started, set up exchange accounts, wallets, DeFi platforms, and general knowledge. Look forward to speaking with you. Cheers.